everyone. During the last class, some of you requested that I create a short video explaining how it was that I set up the layers to create the mask effect in Animate. So I am going to go ahead and show you exactly what I did, including the actual glow that I created, the actual gradient that goes behind the mask that we created. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a rectangle. And I want to make sure that I turn off the stroke on it. I do not need to have a stroke in it, but I will change my fill from, by standard you get a bluish color like this. That's the standard color that appears when you first start the tool. I want to change that, and I want to create an actual gradient. So to do that, I'll click on the swatch for the bucket tool, and you'll see that we have gradients at the bottom that we can start from. So I'm going to choose this one right here, that is the closest thing to what I'm looking for, and then I'll go ahead and create the rectangle. Now I'll go back and switch my tool by pressing the V key on the keyboard, V as in Victor, and I'll go ahead and select my gradient. Now with the gradient selected, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the color tab, and then you'll notice that you have the ability to change the amount of colors that you include within a gradient. I will place this white color roughly around the middle of the gradient. And then I'm going to click on this side just like you do in Photoshop or Illustrator to add an extra swatch. And I'm going to push that one all the way to the left. Let me balance this out a little bit more. Then I'll click on the one that I just created to select it. You'll notice that it shows the little black tip at the top. That means that that is the selected color. And then I'll go ahead and change this to a dark color, like in this case black. I will also change its alpha value, and you'll notice that you have not only HSB and RGB values to change the color, but you also have an alpha value here for transparency, which currently sits at 100. That means it's completely opaque. If I bring it down to 0, you'll notice that the color becomes transparent. I'm going to apply the exact same thing to the other side, to the black on the other side, and that becomes transparent. Because I had the gradient selected in the box, the color changes that I'm doing here in this swatch will apply to that gradient. You'll notice that if I deselect the swatch and I change the color of my stage, I see that I approximate transparency on the sides. Now you see a hue, let me put it on a blue background. You see a little hue of black, and that's because those were the colors that we chose on the sides. But if I were to go back and change these swatches, even though they're 0%, the program still recognizes that it's going from black to white in the gradient. Then I'll just simply switch that to white and click this one again, bring it back up to white. But because I have transparency at 0 for both of those swatches, when I click off, I actually get a clean glow. Now you didn't have to choose the black to start with. I just showed you that if you choose a different color, that the only reason why I showed it to you was to show you that if you choose a different color, the color will still show midway through the gradation. So it's something to be careful with. This will become our glow, and as such, I will go ahead and make this a symbol by selecting it and pressing F8 on the keyboard, or by going under Modify, Make Symbol, Convert to Symbol, and I will give it a name of glow. So that's one, and I'll click OK. Now as I do that, it becomes a movie clip in my library. So that's one thing. Remember that any animated object needs to live in separate. All animated objects have to have a layer of their own. And so I am going to keep this first layer as my glow layer. I am going to rename it by double clicking on its label and hitting return. Now that's where my glow layer will be. Then I'm going to proceed to create a new layer by clicking on the icon down at the bottom of the interface. Double click that one, and I'm going to call this one mask so that we know which one we're working on as the mask. On that one, on the mask layer, having that selected, I am going to go to my text tool, and I am going to type the word glow. I'm going to select the entire word by pressing Ctrl A or Command A, and I'm going to the properties box for this, and I'm going to increase its size. I'm also going to change the font to something that's a little bit thicker so that we actually see across the text. So I'll select, with the text still selected, I'm going to change something like impact, or something that has some thickness to it, Helvetica bold, or something that where you can actually see the glow going behind the text. And with that done, I am going to switch my text to my tool to the text tool, and I'm going to apply a color to this. By the way, this has the gradient applied to it just like the other one, because that was the color that we had still selected. So I'm going to make this white so that we see the actual text. There you go. And then the interaction, this mask becomes the mask for the glow layer. Remember, the mask will always be the layer right above the content. So the glow is the content, the mask layer is the mask. You do not have to name your layer mask for it to work. You could name it whatever you want. The reason why I named it is so that you recognize that is your mask layer. So I'll go ahead and right click on the mask layer, and I'll simply click mask, and you'll notice that the text disappears and the glow lives behind. So let me go ahead and animate that glow. I'll apply animation to it. Let me first turn off the lock, because remember, in order for the mask to be active, both layers will be locked. I'll just turn it off on the glow because that's the only one I'm going to affect, and then I'll right click and create motion tween. And what I'll go ahead and do is select the actual layer, create motion tween, and there's my tween. Then I'll go ahead and select the last frame on the mask layer as well. Let me deactivate that mask layer, press F5 so that I can extend the reach of that particular frame. And I'm going to place, since my time marker is here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that glow and I'm going to place it on this side. That's where it's going to end. Then I'll scrub back all the way to the beginning, select my first frame on that layer, and then move the glow to this side. Then I'll lock the layers again, and as I scrub my video, as I scrub through my timeline, you'll see that the glow runs behind the text. Now you can get a little fancier if you want to. For example, you can go ahead and let me deactivate these two layers. I can select the text like we did in class, and I can break it apart so that we have, I broke it apart twice, so that one, it broke each letter into its own character, and then I broke it again to turn it into an actual graphic, or into a shape. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to change the outline for this glow. I am going to select a color for it first and foremost. So let me go ahead and select that. I'm going to go to the swatch for stroke, and I'm going to make that stroke, say, I'm going to make it yellow. And I'm going to go switch my tool to the paint ink bottle tool. And then I'm going to go right next to each one of these and click on the edges. And you can barely see it, but there's an outline of yellow in those. Then I'm going to switch back to my tool, and remember, the text that I turn into a shape, it's just the fill for the outlines that I just drew with the ink bottle tool. So let me hit delete. As you notice, my text is what's selected right now. I'll hit delete, and I end up with just the glow, the actual outline. Now let me select that outline. Let me drag a selection across the entire outline, and you'll notice that the tool for stroke becomes available to me, so that I can go ahead and change its properties. I'm going to increase the size of the stroke to about 6 so that I get a thicker stroke. And then I'll just simply activate the mask again, and you'll notice that as I scrub, you should be able to see the glow. Oh, sorry. Before I actually can do this, stroke will never work as a mask, so this is still recognized as a stroke. What I need to do is I need to convert that stroke into a fill in order for it to be able into an actual shape. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and go into shape, modify, shape, convert lines to fills. And when I do that, you don't see an actual change, physical change on the on what you have on the screen, what you have selected, but you'll notice that my properties for stroke have disappeared, and that is because it ceases to be an actual outline and it becomes a fill. Once I do that, I can go back and lock both my layers, and as I scrub my video, you'll see the glow gradient behind the actual work, behind the actual outline of the word. So I hope that this answers the question. Keep the questions coming, and I will be producing videos for you as you ask them.